It's time for Recipe of the Day. This is a great recipe to make. It is homemade beef carpaccio. If you haven't had this before, it is very thin slices of uncooked beef. So if you are immunocompromised, or if there's anything about eating raw meat or very rare meat that you don't like, this is probably not a dish for you. And I do have the usual cautions about doing this kind of dish. You really want to go to a reputable butcher. You want to tell them what you're using this meat for and make sure that they know what you're going to do with it. And you want to buy it and use it on the same day. You want it refrigerated at all times in between. And then you're not going to really use the leftovers from this the next day. If you have leftovers, you could cook them, but you wouldn't want to eat them raw again the next day. So those are the cautions that I have for you with this. If you are okay with all of that, I am telling you, this is delicious. It's very special. Last time I was in Vegas, it was on so many menus. It's one of those like classic retro trendy kind of things that goes on in Vegas a lot. There's like shrimp cocktail everywhere and smoked salmon everywhere. This is one of those dishes. So it's just classic and fun and delicious, right? And it's actually really easy to make. So you can be very impressive without a lot of effort. So you're going to get a filet mignon or some beef tenderloin. Those are the same cuts. And what you're actually going to do is you're going to freeze it just a little bit. It just makes it a little bit firmer, which then makes it easier to slice. You're not going for rock hard. You're going for a firm beef that isn't fully frozen through. And then that's going to make it really easy to slice. So for a 1/3 pound piece of beef tenderloin, it was in my freezer for about an hour and a half. Now, every freezer's temperature is different. The size of your meat's going to be different. So just pay attention to yours. Check it every 30 minutes and make sure it's not rock hard, but that it's nice and firm so that you'll have an easier time cutting through it. Like if it's soft and mushy, it's harder to get those thin slices. While it is in the freezer, I recommend that you put your serving plate in the fridge. You want everything to stay really cold with this dish. So if your plates are in the fridge, that is going to help. And we're actually going to be slicing the meat and putting it straight onto the serving plates as we go. It's so thin that it can be hard to move around after it starts bunching up on itself. So you're really going to be slicing and placing them to plate them right as you go. That's why we want the serving plates nice and cold. Now, when your meat is ready, you're going to take those serving plates out of the fridge, and I put them on a bag of frozen peas, that kind of thing, so that they're staying cold while we're working. Especially if this is your first time doing this, you might not get it perfect every time. It might take a little while, like not a super long time, but a little while. And so having those plates stay cold is going to be really helpful. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be slicing against the grain. That makes it the most tender. So try to find the grain in your meat and make sure that you are going against it, not along it. And you're going to use a serrated slicer or a sharp chef's knife to slice the meat as thinly as possible. Now, if you're having trouble getting it really thin, don't worry. We have another step that can help later, but you are trying to get it as thin as possible. And then as you do each slice, you're arranging it onto those serving plates. You want a single layer of meat on each of the plates. So the meat shouldn't be overlapping very much. Now, if those slices are not getting as thin as you like, instead of moving them onto a plate, you can move them onto a piece of plastic wrap and then cover with more plastic wrap, and then use a mallet or a rolling pin to just gently tap them and thin them out a little bit more. And then you transfer them from there onto your chilled plate. Once you've got all the meat sliced, it is time to dress everything. And this is, I think, the best part of this dish. The meat is beautiful and thin and delicate, but then you go in with some arugula, just a handful right in the middle of the plate. You go in with some capers, and then you drizzle the whole thing very lightly with some red wine vinegar, a good quality olive oil that you like the taste of, some coarse cracked black pepper, and some sea salt, nice flaky sea salt. You want the crunch, and then you're eating it immediately. Now, if you are not ready to eat it immediately, I would back up and have finished slicing all that meat and arranging it on the plates, cover it loosely with plastic wrap, and put it in the fridge until you're ready. Then you dress it with the arugula, capers, red wine vinegar, olive oil, pepper, and salt. Because you want all that to be really fresh. You want the salt to not have a chance to dissolve in the moisture of the meat. You really want that little bit of crunch. And that is homemade beef carpaccio. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so you are looking for the June 22nd episode. The other place you can get this link link is in our Facebook group. I post the link in the Facebook group every single day, so you can always get inspired, something to make today or soon, and find the link that I'm talking about. So that Facebook group is in facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookville.com, the all new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.